Berel wine.
Tov, everyone. One of the great rules of public speaking is that you don't speak after children. In the rabbinate, there's another rule that you don't speak on the same subject after Rabbi Brodowitz has spoken. I only wanted to point out, to add one thing to Rabbi Brodowitz's brilliant analysis of Maharal. Rabbi Brodowitz mentioned the Morinayim, Azariah Derasi, Azariah Mino Adomim. You know, we always think that the problems and challenges that we face are somehow new and different and more difficult. We have pity on ourselves. Well, in the time of the Maharal, he is coming after the exile from Spain. The exile from Spain was to the Jewish world in the 15th and 16th centuries the equal of what the Shoah was to our time. The Jews were in Spain 800 years. They were prime ministers and generals, ministers of the treasury. They were wealthy. They had great yeshivot. They produced great Talmidei Chachamim. If you're in a country 800 years, you're going to be there forever, right? Lakewood's forever. But the Golitz teaches us that nothing is forever. So there's that trauma. And then there is an intellectual trauma. Until that time, the church was very, very strong, to the extent that it brooked no dissent. And the church had antiquated ideas, they had wrong ideas about everything. And people who expressed disagreement with the church usually ended up in the fire. But in the century of the Maharal, there arose all sorts of dissidents. And within 100 years, the Protestant movement would occur, the Enlightenment, the Western world would change, and the church would begin its inevitable decline that we see it suffering from today. Someone had to represent the Jewish people. Someone had to say, we are not the church. Because on the surface, a lot of things look alike. Now, Azariah, he was interested in the new culture. And he wanted to fit the Jewish people into the new culture, and therefore it meant reinterpreting Chazal, ignoring things, changing things. He was a person of great note. We read in this week's Parsha the comparison between Bilam and Moshe. My Rabbi always used to say, if you met Bilam on the street, you would think he's Moshe. He didn't have a sign that says, I'm an Apokeros. He used to say even more strongly, he said, hat getrogen a Suppetje und a Streimel. Maharal saw that as a danger to the Jewish people. Because once you start whittling at Chazal, once you start saying this is not what they meant, or they were wrong, or that's not really the story, so you end up with all sorts of things. The first change that Reform in Germany made to the prayer service was they eliminated the first Yikum Purka. So we make a Yikum Purka, it's good, it's in Aramaic, so nobody knows what they're saying. So we say it. But it's a blessing for people that don't exist, that haven't existed for 1,000 years. The heads of the yeshiva in Bovel, the great Rabbonim in Bovel. Who, what, where? There isn't a Jew in Iraq today. But they took out the first Yikum Purkan, and it never stopped there. So, the Maharal, in his brilliance, took all of this on, took on the church. In his writings, there are many things about Christianity that he does in a sublime way. He took on Azariah the Rossi head on. He was open to the new world because he said Torah is eternal and we not fear the future because we are the future. And the Jewish people blessed him in legend, therefore. That's how you can tell how the Jewish people like somebody. They make up stories about them. I remember my Rabbi used to say, the Maharal is nita, but the Galem is geblieben. The Maharal is not here, but the Golem is still here. Such a legend. Who had such a legend about anybody? And the legend was so real that people were afraid in the Altenai synagogue to go under the second floor. Because the Golem would get you. It was the boogeyman. But that was a sign of love. It was a sign of appreciation. That we have such a great person that he can create a human being. And he created many human beings through his books and his writings and his teachings. Chazal said about educators and Talmidei Chachomim, Ose Maaseh Breshis. They're creators. And the creativity is the secret of our longevity and our success. Now it has to be said truthfully that for many, many generations, the Maharal was the province of certain Talmidei Chachomim amongst Klal Yisrael. The Chassidim liked him because of the Kabbalah. Scholars liked him because of his philosophy. But the average Jew that did Chumash and Rashi was not really aware of him. But Torah is eternal. And Chazal say, Divrei Torah aniyim b'mokom echad, v'ashirim b'mokom acher. The words of Torah don't seem to apply at a certain time or a certain place, but at a different time and a different place, they are cogent and relevant. And in our time, the Maharal has had, as others have had, a resurrection that would be unimagined 150, 200 years ago. I remember when I was in the yeshiva, so it was pretty much, this is shortly after the American Civil War. You're laughing, I'm telling you the truth. So there was a Jew in New York that printed the Gur Aryeh on the Rashi on the Chumash, the Maharal on the Chumash. And I remember that he asked one of the great Rabbonim at the time how many copies he should make of the book. Because when you print the book, it doesn't make that much of a difference if you print 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000. Once the basic setup is there. So the rabbi said to him, he said, well, probably 500 would be enough now. He said, but there'll come a day that they'll have to reprint and reprint and reprint. And that day has arrived. There are thousands of swarm of the Maharal that are in circulation and are studied. What Dr. Kur has done is produce a number of books that make the Maharal accessible to an English-speaking public in an understandable way and in an inspirational way. And in fact, I would say that Kur himself is an inspiration. I still owe him money for being the pediatrician for my children. But if you'll ask people today, Moshe Kur, they'll tell you, oh yeah, he wrote about the Maharal. There can be no greater compliment. There can be no greater title. And therefore, I'm very happy to have been able to come here tonight and extend my blessings to Moshe and Phyllis. Phyllis is one of the hardest people in the world to say no to. I imagine Murray knows that too. But I'm grateful for her persistence, and I'm grateful to the Kurs for the friendship they extended to me and my family over our decades together in Muncie. He should continue to go Mechayel El Choyel, and have nachas and simcha and good health. And we should always meet L'Kavod HaTorah, L'Kavod Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. Amen.